Ek wil net sê, vanaand is die Kaap deur Hollands. Vanaand word die Kaap aan die Maleiers. En sonder hierdie Malaierkore is daar in Kaapstad 'n gemis. En ons wil vir julle sê, liewe vriende, kom ons sing vanaand vir onsself binne in die harte van al ons vriende en al ons moontlike vriende. Baie selamat vir 'n baie suksesvolle seisoen. Mag dit goed gaan, mag die beste kore wen en ons kyk uit na 'n heerlike geleentheid. Ek gaan nou terug na die MC toe. Baie dankie vir die geleentheid wat ek gaan iets te sê.
Dames en heren, om te open vanaand aan ons meneer Morris vra om die tradisionele rosa vir ons te sing. Dankie.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abduraghmaan Morris. I am currently residing in Colorado Park. I was actually born in Clifton Street in District 6 in the year 1957. My parents are Boeta Ismail Morris, fondly known as Kameeltje. He had 2 brothers and 1 sister. He was a very popular Nederlands singer of his time. He was also a long life-serving member of the Young Men's Sporting Club, of which I am a member today. My father actually passed on in the year 2010 at the age of 80. And my mother, Abduraghmaan Morris, she is still doing well. She was 89 this year. Also from District 6. My mother is a child of 9 siblings, 6 sisters and 3 brothers. Her family were of Indian origin, and she always used to tell us that she grew up in what was called a pisang store, because they used to trade with bananas, and her father used to go to the market and they used to sell the bananas from their store, which was part of the house. That is all the stories that I got from them as I was growing up. We were 4 children, 2 brothers, Adnan, the youngest of the siblings, and my second youngest sibling was Majdi. He has just recently passed on in this year. Allah grant him a Jannah, inshallah. And then I've got a sister who's 2 years younger than me, Nariman. She stays out in Lentekia in Mitchellsplein. We're actually a very close-knit family. We always grew up in the framework of the religion, because we just stayed just opposite the masjid in District 6 in Clifton Street, which was Abduraghmaan Morris of Imam Simon. We went for madrasa where we grew up. Thursday nights to the hajat we made, and Sunday evenings. That was all part of our life growing up. And Alhamdulillah, we are very grateful for all the knowledge and experience which we gained in that vicinity, which was in the heart of District 6. You know, it was a very vibrant area, and I had a lot of young friends, and we used to play rugby, junior rugby for the Rangers Rugby Club, which was at the headquarters in Clifton Street. On a Sunday, we used to go to the Silver Tree rugby field. During the week, after school, we all used to meet at the madrasa in the masjid under the tutelage of Imam Abu Bakr Simon. And he was a fantastic imam and a teacher. He used to teach us the salah. Like, I'll never forget, on a Thursday afternoon, the whole of the madrasa, boys and girls, used to line up in the masjid in safs, and we used to go through the salah, and everybody would used to repeat after him. Everybody would recite out loud, like Nawaitu usalli farda salatil asr, and everybody used to perform the salah, and that is how we were taught the correct way of doing everything. And my grandfather, he was also Abduraghmaan Morris. In fact, on that, now we've got this tradition in our family that the eldest grandchild boy is always named after his grandfather. So I was named after my grandfather, Abduraghmaan, and my eldest son, Ismail, was named after my father. And his eldest son, Abduraghmaan, is also now Abduraghmaan Morris. So we've got this legacy going on. We hope that my great-great-grandchildren will look at it and they will also uphold this tradition of ours. And now coming back to my grandfather, he was the khatib of Imam Abu Bakr, who stayed in Freda Street in District 6. They used to call him Imam Hospital, because he used to go around with the people in the hospitals, and if you pass on, he was the person you'd go to get the bodies out of the morgue. And he was also a very well known and well respected imam. Now, Ali's Winkel was the headquarters of the Hamidius Rugby Club. In the same street, on the corner of Roosstraat and Clifton Street, was another shop, and that was the headquarters of the Rangers. Fierce rivals at the time. Both was very good. We used to get our things ready. We get to pack our bag for the day. Go with my cousin, a couple of years older than me, and we used to take us to the Greenpoint track for the Saturday afternoon, and we used to go watch the rugby. Rugby was very popular at the time. I mean, there were great rugby players. The Silver Trees, the Montroses, the Stars, the Kellys. On the back of the field, there was an area which was open, and we used to have our own match at the same time as the adults were playing. We used to have our own match going on behind the scenes. I also took part in the Traffs High rugby team, because we used to go to different schools, and then on the rugby field we would meet each other. And then when that happens, we were not friends, we were enemies. It's something that I will never forget. when the apartheid era came in. I was about 10 years old, I think. We actually didn't know what was going on, but we heard the grown-ups talking about, yeah, ons moet move. As a group areas, ons moet uit is. We, we just kept on playing our games, and it didn't actually strike us the seriousness of what was taking place. We just saw that trucks started to come to the houses in the street because we were that area was very highly populated. I mean, in one house you'd have 3 or 4 different families, each family in a room, and there's a lot of the houses had a yard and a cabin at the back, and there was another family would be living. Everybody accepted everybody. People started moving out, carrying the furniture out onto the trucks. We asked, where are they going now? They're going out. They're moving to Bonteheuwel and they're moving to Mitchell's Plain. And we didn't know where were these places until it came for our turn. And my father told us that, we're also going to have to move to a place called Primrose Park. It's in Athlone. We were, dumbfounded, but why? While this was so, the people were moving, we saw this big tractors come in. And as the house was empty, the tractors would pull up on the field and start bulldozing the houses down. And that was a bit traumatic for us, because, we grew up there and we saw all it was our friends' houses and they're moving out, and the one day you see the full house stand, the next day everything would be flat. And then we moved out to, I think it was in 1971, to Primrose Park. My uncle had a Ford Zephyr, and we drove out to the N2 Settlers Way, past the old power stations from District 6 until you exit into the old, what was known as Heinz Road. Some of the houses were still being built, and it was just the top part of Surrey Estate. And my father said to us, this is going to be our house. This is where we're going to stay. You're each going to have your own room. Because where we came from, the house had 2 rooms. There was one for my mom and daddy, and one for all the kids in one room. And I said, wow, we're going to have our own room. But now we're moving into a 3-bedroom house, separate toilet and bathroom and a big lounge, and they had nice grounds around it. We were quite impressed. We were very happy. And up until today, which is after my father passed on, my brothers, we bought the house over, and my mother's staying with him now there. We have consequently moved out because when I got married in 1981, I stayed in the house until about 1989 when I actually bought my first house here in Mitchell's Plain in Portland. And my brother also, my other brother, Majdi, he also bought a house here in Colorado. My sister, she got married and she went to live with her husband in the Lentegee, Mitchell's Plain. When I reached puberty and I started getting teenagers, because I was now in a new area called Primrose Park, and there were a lot of new families moving in. Then I became friends with the youngsters in the area. And you're going through that time, it changes in your life. I mean, it was the early 70s, almost the 80s. And the fashion was the thing at the time. It was bell bottoms and tight-fitting shirts, Everybody's hair was hanging on their shoulders, And I went to high school at Boeta High School in Athlone. On the Saturday evenings, they used to have what was called the house parties. Scene, I think you used to call it a scene. Our friends used to say, we're going to a scene on Saturday night. The hair at the time was a very big thing. And I unfortunately didn't have straight hair. I had very curly hair. So we had to do this thing called the swirl and use a stocking, one of your mom's stockings, and put it over your head and pull it tight. It must be about 10 minutes the one way and then again 10 minutes the other way. And you used to comb your hair out and your hair would be nice and straight and hanging right on your shoulders, The mode of the day, At 8 o'clock or so, the guys used to come, we used to meet at the shop, Mr. Parker's shop. Quite safe at the time. It would be real cool to walk from your house to your friend's house with an LP under your arm. By 12 o'clock you must be in, no matter what. You come home and you see your mother's still up waiting. Where are you coming from now? You know what the time is. Said, oh, mommy, we're safe, don't worry, don't worry. We used to have a lot of sleepovers. Come sleep by me tonight. Pillows off the couches, put it up on the floor. We used to call a kermis bed we had to be made on the floor. And then again on Sunday morning, we sleep late. Your mommy come in and say, kom, julle moet nou opstaan. And hey, mommy, ons gaan nog 'n bietjie lê, ons is moeg. And she used to bring us coffee and consisters. Sunday morning, we should talk about the good times we had the Saturday evening. Yeah, those were the good times, eh? Like I said, I attended the Spesbona High School. It's a boys-only school called a technical school. Prepare you when you want to go on a trade, like very strict, you know. We used to travel by bus from the Grenhaven bus into Athlone. We used to get off at the police station and then walk across the road. I finished matric there in 1975. Getting a apprenticeship was quite common. And I remember my father told me, you know, whatever you do, it doesn't matter what trade you do, go do a trade because you will always have something to fall on. I was actually a good student in 1975. We didn't know what the CV was. If you wanted a job, you'd go to the newspaper, look at the newspaper for like when they advertise for the job, and then you've got to physically write a letter for the post of apprentice toolmaker or apprentice turner machinist. My subjects are etc. etc. I saw this advert for a apprentice toolmaker in Epping, and they were only a small ad. Anyway, I decided to apply for it. We set up a date and I went in for an interview. That was my very first taste of work because when I got to this factory and I went in and it was my very first interview. What do you do? No, what is your hobbies? Why do you want to do this? They took me around this factory and I saw these big machines, something I've never seen before. I saw guys standing behind a machine and putting a piece of metal in this machine and tightening it up, tool with a tool holder and machining it away. And I was taken aback. It's the first time I've seen something like this. But, I just said to myself, look, they are going to train you and they will teach you. It doesn't matter if you don't know what's going on. Anyway, about a week or 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the name of the company was Daylift, an apprenticeship to start with them. That was 1976. In 1975, I actually finished my matric. So straight from school, I started at Daylift Precision Engineering. I was given a journeyman to work with, and he sort of taught me, all the tricks of the trade and what you got to do. Then we used to have to go to the book you on a train to a place called Olifantsfontein up in Joburg somewhere. Pass out for your trade test. And that was another scary thing for me because for the first time I must travel alone. Luckily there was a lot of other guys all in my position. I went for my trade test. Unfortunately, I didn't pass my trade test. I failed my trade test. I was very disappointed. But coming back, I'll never forget what my one boss said to me. What did you do? Did you turn the thing back to front? I mean, we've trained you, no? But on my technical side, when they sent me to tech, I got A's in all the subjects. So they couldn't figure out what was going on, They got hold of a new type of machine that had just come out on the market, which is computerized, numerically controlled machine. And this was for me so fascinating. The boss called me in one day and said, look, we need somebody to train on this machine. So I think you're going to be the perfect person. And that was a turning point in my life because then I actually got onto something which was I found my nick. And I stayed at Daylift up until the day that I retired, which was about 4 years ago now, because I'm 64 now. So from 1976 till 2017, I think it was. My wife, Faiza, and her family also moved into the same area. As you can see from my working relationship, I am a very sort of settled person. Like my job, when I got my job, I stuck with it up until the end. We all actually went to madrasa at the Primrose Park School, primary school. We started seeing each other up until the day that I proposed. That was in 1981. So we got married. We went to stay at my parents' house until our firstborn, which was Ismail. We decided to look out for a place of our own. We needed a bigger place because by that time my family had grown. Ismail and Feroza. This place here in Colorado Park, I think it was in 1989 we moved in here, staying here ever since. It's a very, very nice area and we're quite happy here. Like I said, the story with the Young Men's Sporting Club is I grew up in Clifton Street in District 6. Now, the District 6 area was rife and it was vibrant with sounds of the Malay choirs, like on every corner, you know, and incidentally, a lot of the rugby clubs turned into Malay choirs. It used to be the same people who you used to grow up with and the same people that you knew. And because just around the corner from us was the Rosendales. Our house was always, because my father, my late father, Ismail Camille Morris used to call him, he was the lead, the Netherlands singer for the young men. In his time, he was the top singer in Cape Town. His friends, Boeta Maan, was the coach of the young men. On a Saturday night or so, a couple of his friends would used to come around to our house and they used to sit in the lounge and they start singing. And I would lay in my little room there and I would hear them singing, you know. And that is how I got bitten by the Netherlands bug. As I grew up, when I started reaching adolescence, I used to go to the competitions in the city hall. My mom would take me, watch the teams perform. And that was a very posh affair at the time. People used to dress up, you know, to the tees. And I used to sit there and I say to myself, one day I also want to do the singing culture. Taught myself to play the guitar and I used to sing. My father then used to have what they call the singtafel. With the Boeta Maan, Jack, and a couple of their friends, they used to get together and they go to houses. They used to call it a venue. And they used to say, "Waar's die venue vandaan?" because they used to sing from after Isha right up until almost Fajr in the morning. They all sat around a table singing liedjes, you know. My father's friend, Boeta Maan, called me, man, kom eens aan, kom sit hier by ons, kom sing 'n liedjie, wat 'n liedjie ken jy? And I said to him, Agro Salem. Right, speel vir hom daar, so speel vir hom twee. It's actually A, but they used to call it twee, and I used to play. For my very first time, I sang the lead part of a lied, you know. Jy was kwaai met klonk man, jy moet meer saam met ons kon sing man. And then I actually started going around to the tafels with them. Not only that, we used to sing on Sundays at weddings. They used to come around there and pick me up. We used to go to the Woodstock Town Hall, to the Athlone Civic, and I learned a lot. The art of the karinkel, the art of the aangeer. Because I was a Rangers fan from a little boy at Boeta Maan house, and I used to go with my dad, coach the Rangers. That is how I got introduced into the actual team part of it. About a year later, a good friend of mine, Ridwan Osman, we decided to go with the Rangers. As we were practicing, the coach of the Rangers time was the Agis de Wet. He said to me, hey, jy moet sing vir ons vir jaar, ons het competitions, jy moet sing vir ons. And I said, no man, ek kan nie sing. He said, ja, kom. And the first liedjie that they taught me was die Jager uitgaan. I mean, I was just about over 20 at the time. They trained me and I went to sing the 3 Art Theatre where the competitions were held at. And I sang my very first liedjie, Ek sou daar die Jager uitgaan. That night, it was a good thing and a bad thing for me. The bad thing for me was I didn't get a prize. But the good thing was that a lot of people recognized me and they saw potential in me, you know. The team that my father was with at the time, which was the young men, his friends, you know, scolded him. He said, hoe kan jy jou kind daar gaan laat sing? Jy moet saam met die young men kom, man. Jy sit saam met die young men, you know. A couple of them came to me and said, nou, ons wil jy moet saam met die young men gaan, man. Kom jou pa is daar, en die is jou plek, dat jy behoort saam met ons. And that was in the year 1982. That time the young men was one of the top choirs, you know. They had a Netherlands singer at the time, but it was also a soloist, T.P. Diedrichs, which was the son of Dini Diedrichs, who was the coach of the young men. And he said, nee, my klonk gaat solo sing, jou klonk moet Nederlands sing. So my very first year when I sang for young men, specialist pack behind me, the first liedje that I sang for them was, ek neem dit van my jongskap af. I'll never forget, I still went to Boeta Jack at the time, and I said to him, Maan, ek wil graag sing, ek neem dit van my jongskap af. Now I know that was one of his favorite liedere. So he said to me, okay, kom sien vir my in die week, ons gaan ons deur die liedje, and then he taught me the art of doing it. And I got onto stage, I was very, very much nervous at the time, and then I won the first prize. I started gaining more confidence. The older guys, the stalwarts of the young men was with Kapari, Hanif January, with Kalu Abrams, with Muhsin, Max Davids, you know, and then they took me under the wing with a kapari. He was actually the banjo player. And then he taught me the old young man's liedje, which he says he got from his mother. Jager in dit bos, jager en dit was my liefing. And I sang that lied. And my second year, I won another first prize. The third year, I sang a liedje called En ek terug hier op een aand voorlaat. And I won again a first prize. The board has a rule that if you win 3 years in a row first prize, you get a keepsake trophy. The Young Men was established in the year 1938, and they are currently the oldest Malay choir of the kind in Cape Town, South Africa, if not the world. The choir was formed by members of the Diedrichs, the January, and the Abrams families. Now, they were all resident in the area called the Dry Docks, which is an area of District 6. Now, incidentally, the first name of the club was Jonge Mens Kultuurklub. But with the modernization through the times, it changed to the Young Men. In Claremont, they've got a way of saying it. We call the Young Men. But in the Claremont side, it's called Young Mens. Young Mens. That is how they pronounce it. I think the reason for the club's success and longevity is the close-knit and the camaraderie of the families who for generations kept the club alive and competitive in the Cape Malay Choir Board, which is the mother body. The club stood the test of times. When the Second World War broke out, they stuck it through to the time of the forced removals of District 6. And people were moved to all areas. That vibrant society was split up and they were scattered all over the Cape Flats. But yet the Young Men stood the test of time. You know, with so many adversities that came up through the past, the Young Men is still there today. When I joined the young men, the coach of the club was Boeta Diedrichs, a very well-known solo singer. After his passing, a man called Boeta Davids, fondly known as Max Bass, a rugby referee, and that is how he got his nickname. Boeta is a guy who was called Mr. Youngman at the time. Give his everything for the team. I mean, there were times in the early 80s we used to come together and it was only me and him and maybe another 3 or 4 guys, and we used to go for rehearsals at the Klopskamer, but nobody would pitch up. And we would used to say, you know, Boeta maybe we must reconsider, man, calling it quits, you know. He says, no, don't call it quits. We're going to sit here. They will come. They will come. Just before Boeta Maan, you see the guys rocking up one by one. Tamuxin, all right. Tamuxin, gee order for me. Ja, all right. And he used to go through a roll call and say, Diana kom. Diana moet gaan verkeer. Ja, order for me. Ek my indicate hy gaat kom. Dan is right for him phone. Order for him gee, order for him gee. End up with about 30, 40 guys who has not been at the team yet. But we're ordering gears and he used to know everybody's size out of his head. He's a medium, he's a large. En na gear was jerseys, pull over. Christmas time, as die ouens gepaid hulle bonus gekry. Nee, en dan kom hulle, Boeta Maan, we'd have a 50-man, 60-man team on the road. That is the amount of faith that person had. And that is probably one of the traits that I picked up from him. 2001, sadly, when he passed on. And then I was elected the president and the coach of the Young Men Sporting Club. Today everything is done by sheet music and it's got orchestras playing. The guys get taught the proper way of intonation, of producing sound and things like that. I mean, at the time, in the Muslim church, you didn't have any of that. You just used to go by the ear and say, julle sing daar, en julle sing bietjie hoor, julle is bietjie dikker, maar die dik stem, julle sing laag. At the time when I took over, and I could go on Google choirs, you know, techniques that they use, the songs they sing. I'd get hold of somebody like a pianist and I would teach it to the choir. And it worked out very, very good, very well for us. The highlights was in the year 2011 and 2012. We had our biggest choirs. We had close on to, in fact, not more than 100 members on stage. The top 8 competition, as well as the Silverfest trophy. life has ups and downs. From there, with the things have started to change in the Cape Malay Choir Board and in the actual competition and the running of the team, because unemployment became rife. The guys just couldn't afford the uniforms anymore. Choir numbers started dwindling, and also not only because of that, but because of other things that was coming up, which detracted the guys' attention from the choirs, with the football and things like that being live. Instead of a guy sacrificing his Wednesday night coming to a team practice, he'd rather stay at home and watch Man United and Liverpool. When I joined the Cape Malay Choir Board, there were in excess of about 40 choirs. You know, up until today, we're down to about 16 choirs. You know, this sport of ours has taken a big knock. There are still a couple of diehard teams, you know. Now, there's a lot of other choirs who operate differently, you know. For the 4 items, which is a combined comic, Netherlands, and solo, a coach for every item. I usually have some, like the assistant coaches, like my sons, my 2 sons, Ismail and Shuaib. I tell them, listen, yeah, what do you think of this tune, man? And they would say, yeah, that can work, you know. We would think of a theme. Like for the last year, the name of the comic was Ochi die Berge. Now, some things that you've got to have, it's got to be funny, and it's got to have a story. It's got to have a storyline. And it's got to have a message. What it's like for the guy pushing the trolley in the street, collecting the scrap. It described what he goes through every day, how he became like that. That comic was very well received. We come to the Netherlands. Now, I belong to the Netherlands Committee of the Cape Malay Choir Board. I'm actually the chairman of the Netherlands Committee. The Netherlands liedere, as it is sung, to preserve the tradition. Every choir, the lead that he sings, he has to forward it to the Netherlands Committee, and they will scrutinize the words. You know, I've also gained this experience whereby I can hear voices, figure out where the corresponding voice must be. In other words, the harmonies. That is how I coach the Netherlands League. And I also have like one-on-one with the lead singer of the Netherlands League, Mr. Wafik Brink. I have private sessions with him. He would come to me and we'd sit at night and I'd let him sing with the guitar. And I show him the karinka, where he must give on, where he must scondeer. Then we take it to the team. And I write the words on the board, put it up against the wall. Then we take it line for line, and then we'd go through the whole item like that until we are happy and satisfied. Yeah, it is one of the most popular in the Cape Malay Choir Board. And the lyrics of the liedere is Dutch or Netherlands, and it is sung in that way. It starts off with the lead singer, who starts off. Our choirs performed at many other events. For example, we were the first choir to partake in a musical play at the Artscape Theatre. The play was called Tramakasi, and it tells the story of the life of what it is like belonging to a Malay choir. We also partook in another play which was called Die Vlammende Fest, and it told the story of the life of Dr. I.D. Du Plessis, now whom was very connected with the Cape Malay Choir Board in the early 60s. He was actually a life president, and he was also a member of parliament, and he did a lot for the colored people at the time. The choir was also invited to perform at the KKNK in Oudtshoorn in 2018. And we went down in a combi, stayed at the guest house there. Nice outing for the guys. And every night we used to perform various theatres in Oudtshoorn. And then also one of the other highlights was in 2018, when we were the first choir to perform the Netherlands lied called Rosa with the full Cape Philharmonic Orchestra. Took part in the Imam Harun tribute, told the story of the life of Imam Harun, all the hardships he went through, and it was in conjunction with his family. It was very emotional for us as well. After the show, they actually invited the whole cast of the show for lunch at his daughter's house. I think it's in Athlone somewhere. We spent the Sunday afternoon there after having lunch, and we took our guitars and the banjo, and then we sang a couple of songs there, and it was a very, very memorable day for us. Before, in the earlier days, a lot of teams used to have sponsors, not business sponsors, but you used to have a guy in a team who used to be a hawker, and because that was actually one of the finances of the young men over the years in the dry docks. Whereas you used to have a guy called Boeta, and he used to, when a team is a shortfall on tickets, he put his hand in his pocket, they betaal die tickets, of die band moet betaal word. But you don't have that kind of people anymore, because cost of living today is so high, that people cannot afford. And unless you are a team which is sponsored by a business, a brand name or something like that, I just want to say a special thank you to the members, those who have passed on and those who are still with us. I'd like to say a big shukran to each and every one of you who contributed over the years to the well-being of the Young Men's Sporting Club. Something we are very proud of is the fact that we are the oldest. It is about being a team, it's coming together and sticking it out. And I'd like to mention some couple of names, but the danger of that is you might leave out somebody and they might feel offended. But I feel that I must say, especially for the founding members like Kalu Abrams, Perry, January, Muhsin Davids, those are the people who taught me this game and taught me about what it's like to be a young man. To my fellow executive members, shukran for your time and effort that you put into this team. It is very much appreciated. Even with all this setbacks that we have with the COVID, because we haven't been active for the last 2 years now, but we've always been in contact. And as soon as everything is cleared up, I'm sure we will get back together and build this team up again to be one of the pillars of the Cape Malay Choir Board. Shukran to you all. To the ladies who are always in the background with fundraising, shukran to you, because without you people, we cannot be there. We say shukran to the people who've made their houses available for the functions that we give, and big shukran to all our supporters, the die-hard supporters. We've had our highs, you were there. We had our lows, you're still there. So I must say a big shukran to everybody. This is a sport that I love, I grew up with, and I don't actually have another hobby, because as soon as one season ends, I automatically start looking out for new material for the next season. My wish would be to leave our beloved Young Men's Sporting Club over to my two sons to lead and carry on with my legacy for the Young Men's Sporting Club. You said it would be an hour, but I think and you've just got to have that tenacity to stick with what you want to do. Don't ever give up. That would be my words of advice and encouragement, is learn the ropes, believe in yourself, and don't ever give up. And my grandkids, I've got 3 from my son Ismail and his wife Adila. I might get into trouble for saying this, but I think my favorite, obviously, is my namesake, Abduraghmaan. He's starting grade R next year, so he's all wired up. He's got his uniform already. He is my only grandson that I've got, and he's got my name. I'm very proud of my grandchildren. We've got Hanan, who is 11, and then the little Miss Bossy, which is Iman. I think she's now 8 or 9. and she's a real, bosses everybody around. Abduraghmaan, he's a really young man, crazy guy. When we go to a wedding or go to a gig, he's always first dressed and first ready. I never forget one day I was speaking at a meeting with the guys, and I read out everybody's name, and he was also there because he never misses a practice. And when he got home, he started crying, and he told his mom, "Yeah, Pa, you didn't mention my name." And I said to him, when he told me afterwards, I said, "No, you must got Pa's name, man, so you don't have to call out your name." No, he's a real treasure to have. My son, Shoaib, he has been married now for since February this year, and he's married to Laika, and I just wish for them everything of the best as well, for a prosperous future together for them. My daughter Feroza, she's staying with us. She's taking care of us. At the time when I was sick, when I couldn't drive, she would take me to hospital and go and fetch me after treatment, and for something which I'm very grateful for. So I just want to say a big shukran to her as well. And then last but not least, my darling wife, Faiza, was stuck out all these years with me. For me, leaving him alone at night and on Sundays. All other families go out to the beach on a Sunday. They go for outings, but it takes a special kind of person to put up with a husband who is so involved and so committed with his hobby. The saying goes, after every successful man, there's a woman. So I just want to say a big shukran to her as well. Mr. Shafiq April was everything of the Cape Malay Choir Board. That man gave his life together with his wife. If at any time you had a problem with your choir, you wanted to know something, you can just pick up the phone or pop in at his house in Hanover Park. He'd welcome you and sit you down and talk and give you advice. He was actually very proud of the Young Men's Sporting Club as well. And he would always speak well of the Young Men's Sporting Club and make an example of us in the board's meetings. And for that, I will always be very thankful. To his family, just want to give my condolences and well wishes and thank them for allowing Mr. Shafiq April to do all the things that he did for the Cape Malay Choir Board and for the teams. Did I say that one? Yeah, I just want to thank you. Fatima, on behalf of the Young Men's Sporting Club and my family, I just want to say a big shukran to you and your husband for all your time and effort and sacrifices that you put in with this project of yours. I think it's a fantastic idea. To go out to the community, interview people, and let the community know what people are thinking and what people are saying. It's very much appreciated, and I wish you all the best, all the khair and barakah in your lives, inshallah. And I hope that you will not give up on what you're doing and continue with this good work that you're doing. Shukran, big shukran to you.